ॐ ॐ ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रीब्रह्मानन्दम् परमसुखदम् केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिम् द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशम् तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वदी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणसहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहैः तेजस्विनावतीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
ओके, सुमाजी स्क्रिप्ट। ओके, धन्यवाद सुमाजी। 337 पेज।
ओके,
धन्यवाद सुमाजी।
Is there any chanting before Bhagavad Gita? Any shloka chanting, or we just read?
Yeah, you can start. You did the prayer, no, already? Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know any shloka to chant. So I did the prayer. So
Yeah,
if
it
you
is.
want to chant.
Yeah.
No, you start reading.
Yeah, you can start reading. Dhanyavad.
Okay. So from here, then Shankara reminds us in the 9th chapter. Yeah?
Yeah, 437, correct. Yeah. Brahmaraji had said from 9th or 12th Brahmaraji? 9th. We can repeat, no problem. It is equally important.
Okay. Then Shankara reminds us in the 9th chapter of those who use the three Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda, while performing rituals. Take the Soma as the prasada of the ritual, and having been purified of all the wrongdoing, become Puta Papas, and worshipping by means of the ritual, they pray for heaven. Draividyamam Somapa Putapapa Yajnairisva Sarvagatim.
विश्वा स्वर्गतिं प्रार्थयन्ते ते पुण्य. What's that?
Evam.
Yeah, evam trayi dharmam anuprapannaha gataagatam kama kama labhante.
then what happens? Naturally, their prayers are answered, and after death, they go to the world. Could you just tell the translation of this in English? Traividya Mam Soma Papa Puta
The
Papa.
translation is what you read before we read this.
Oh, okay. So by purifying all wrongdoings, okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Those three, Trividya Mam, that is the people who follow the three Vedas.
Hmm.
They take the Soma as the prasada. Trividya Mam, Soma Paha, Puta Papa. That is, they rid themselves of the sins. Yajnai Rishtva Swargatim Prarthayante. And then, after having been purified of wrongdoings, they go to heaven. And once they exhaust all their punya, they come back again. Matya lokam vishanti. Evam trayi dharma manuprapannaha gatagatam kama kama labhante.
Thank you. Then what happens? Naturally, their prayers are answered, and after that, they go to the world born of Punya, where Indra lives, and in that heaven they enjoy celestial happiness. Then afterwards, having enjoyed the heavenly abode, when the Punya that took them there and kept them there gets exhausted, they enter again into the world of mortals. Kshine Punye Matsyalokam Vishanti. Martyalogam Vishanti. This world or anything equivalent to it, where there is disease, decrepitude, old age, etc., is called Martyaloka. These ignorant people, Anyanis, who wish for desired objects, Kamakamis, only come back from where they have gone. Gatagatam Labante. Even though they are following the karma enjoined by the three Vedas, what do they gain at the end? Having gone to some desirable place, they again come back. What is the net result? They remain in samsara. Whereas, look at these others who contemplate upon Ishvara as no longer separate from themselves. Ananyas chintayanto mam. So Ishvara as no longer separate from themselves. For those who are always one with Ishvara, the Lord has said, I take care of all their yoga and kshema. Tesham nitya viyuktanam yoga kshemam vahamyaham. This being taken care of by Ishvara is relative for the karma yogis because they have prasada buddhi and absolute for the jnanis because they are complete, purna. These people are nityuktas, constantly inquiring into or are one with the Atma, as it has been explained in this chapter as equivalent to space. Akasha, Akasha Kalpa, pure and limitless, free from all punya and papa. Akalmasha. Further, he says, those who contemplate upon me, who are seeking me with great love, I give that knowledge whereby they gain me. Dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti. Upayanti. Upayanti te. Dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. This is the whole idea here. They do not go to heaven or any other place. They become one with Ishvara. For this, it is understood that the others, the ignorant ones who are committed to fulfilling desires, do not gain Ishvara. By knowledge, people gain Ishvara and not by karma. By karma, they only go to a different worlds of experiences or experience. What about those who are doing only karma that is enjoined by the Veda and therefore enjoined by Bhagavan? The attitude with which this karma is done is of two types. One is that of devotees who are ready to do anything that is enjoined just because it is enjoined. They do this karma for no other reason than that it is enjoined by Bhagavan. Nothing is more sacred to them. These are like people we see in India removing the weeds, grass, etc. from the temple yard, sweeping the floor, bringing flowers for malas, and doing varieties of other things in the temple. Then there are those who do the enjoined karma in order to please Ishvara. Bhagavat Aradhya Arad, Aradhanartham. Bhagavat Aradhanartham. Aham idham karishye. Either you do the karma with the attitude that it is enjoined by Bhagavan and therefore it is to be done, or you do the karma for the sake of Bhagavan. Both attitudes make the karma Bhagavat karma, make the karma Bhagavat karma. Those who do karma with the attitudes are karma yogi. With these attitudes are karma yogi. Even though they are the most steadfast in their karma yoga attitude, they are still karmis. How can you say so when all they are doing is religious prayer, ritual, etc. that is enjoined by the Veda? It is because they are ignorant and therefore look upon the Atma as a doer, karta. In the third chapter, we saw that the person who is ignorant, ajnani, looks upon himself as a doer. Kartaham iti manyate. Even though these sense organs move about among their respective sense objects, the one who is deluded looks upon the Atma as an agent. Still, he has a number of means, sadhanas, to help himself, the last of which is giving up the results of action. Very nice. He has a number of means, sadhanas, to help himself, the last of which is giving up the results of action. In the 12th chapter, it is said that if you cannot pursue that which is not available for words, anirdeshya, that which does not decline, akshara, etc., and cannot resolve your mind steadily in Bhagavan, you can still gain Bhagavan by abhyasa, the practice of contemplation. If you are not able to do even that, then you can gain success by doing karma for the sake of Bhagavan. And if you are not able to do that even that, then you can at least give up the results of actions, karma phala tyaga. Why is this the last? It is only from the standpoint of the other things that were said. If one of them is possible, this is the last. Can be done. If none of them is possible, this is the last that can be done. Even though this too is a karma that connects him to Bhagavan, still he is ignorant and therefore a karmi. Any manana required, or I continue reading?
You can actually continue till the 15th or 15th chapter. Yeah.
Okay. In the 12th chapter, from verse 13, which says, the one who is free from aversion to any living being, Adveshta Sarvabhutanam. Up to the end of the chapter, a number of qualities are mentioned, which are the natural expressions of a wise man. These are to be cultivated by the one who wants to be wise. They are friendliness, Maitri, compassion, Karuna, absence of ownership, Nirmamatva, freedom from egotism, Nirankaratva. These are natural characteristics only of one who knows the nature of the Atma. This is because he alone is free from likes and dislikes. Unless one is beyond ragadveshas, one cannot be totally free from aversion to any living being. These qualities and others that are discussed up to the end of the 12th chapter are the means to be followed by those who are seeking knowledge of the reality, Vastu. These people are entirely different from the people who are performing karma as a yoga. Then again, in the 13th chapter, the means for knowledge, jnana sadhana, was given. And there, no mention of any specific karma like Agnihotra was made. The means that were enumerated there were absence of pride, amanitva, absence of pretentiousness, adambitva, absence of intent to harm, ahimsa, accommodation, shanti, straightforwardness, arjava, reverence for the teacher, acharyopasana, purity, saucha, being focused, stairya, master over oneself, atmanivigraha, dispassion with regard to sense objects, indriyarteshu vairagya, absence of egotism, anahankara, and repeatedly and clearly seeing the inherent defect of pain in birth, death, old age, disease. Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha dosha anudarshana, etc. In the 14th chapter it was said, he does not hate anything undesirable that comes, much less does he long for anything desirable that has gone away. He remains seated like someone who is indifferent, undisturbed by the gunas. Na dveshti sampravartani, na nivrittani kakshanti, udasina vad ashino gunair yona vikalyate.
Vichalyate.
Vichalyate. Note that he is like an indifferent person. He is not indifferent but different. He is free from the dependence upon conducive and non-conducive situations to be happy. He is not disturbed at all by various internal and external situations. Then further, in the 15th chapter, it was said, those who do not have the delusion of being an agent, who have conquered the various concerns with reference to attachment, affection, etc., who are totally committed to seeing the nature of the self, who are completely free from desires for heaven, etc., who are completely above the pairs of opposites like Sukha Dukkha. Such people who are never deluded go to the end from which there is no return. Nirmana moha jitasanga dosha adhyatma nitya manitya vinivritta kama dandva Dandvar vimukta sukha dukkha samjaiha gachanti
Dvandvair vimuktaah sukha dukkha sangai gachanti moodhaah padam avyayam tat.
Thus, in these 3 chapters, beginning with the 13th chapter, the various means for gaining knowledge were given. However, these becomes means only for the seeker and not for a jnani. The 3 types of results of action, desirable, undesirable, or a mixture, are not there for those who have renounced all actions. Action, as we saw in the beginning of this chapter, has 5 causal factors: the physical body, the sense organ, the notion of agency, instruments of action, and the presiding deities of all these. All these are necessary for performing karma, and all karmas have been given up by these people, the jnanis. How did they give up all these karmas? You cannot give up your body and sense organs, etc., when you are alive. That being so, how can one give up karma? Shankara says that they have the knowledge of the non-dual nature of Atma, and therefore they know that they are not the agent of any action. Karma requires 5 factors, but Atma is one, and everything else, including all these 5, is mithya. Therefore, 1 plus 5 is still 1. The one who understands that is freed completely from all things connected with the action. Karakas. If he is free from all karakas, he is neither an agent, karta, nor an object, karma of any action. The results of action are not for those who have this knowledge of the non-dual self, which is absolutely free from action. The result of an action can be desirable, undesirable, or a mixture of the 2. None of them will be there for those people who abide in this knowledge, who, in other words, know the truth of Bhagavan. These are the real sannyasis. In gaining the knowledge of the nature of Bhagavan, they have completely resolved or taken refuge in the oneness of the Atma, which is identical with the nature of Bhagavan. The 3-fold result of karma is not for them, it is for everybody else. Whether he is a person who follows the Veda, a Vaidika, or is purely secular, Laukika, whether he is a believer, Astika, or non-believer, Nastika, religious or non-religious, whether he is a Pandita or an illiterate, he is subject to these results of action. Those who are doing good action will reap desirable results, no doubt. But they are still subject to the results of action. While those who know the nature of the self are subject to the results of actions, while those who know the nature of the self are not subject to the results of the actions. Okay. All actions, being ignorant of this fact and therefore taking themselves, all others being ignorant of this, I'll just read this again. While those who know the nature of the self are not subject to results of action, all others being ignorant of this fact and therefore taking themselves to be agents of action are subject to the results of these actions. They are given to karma because they have not yet come to understand the Atma. Since they have not given up karma by knowledge, they are subject to the results of karma. Thus, we have this division. For those who know the nature of Atma, the Jnanis, there is no result of action, karma phala, unlike for those who do not know, the Ajnanis. Since they have karma phala, they have got to act in order to get the results they desire. Those who know, however, need not do anything. Thus, we have this division of action being necessary, kartatva, for the ignorant, and not necessary, akartatva, for the wise person spoken in the Gita. Because he is free from all actions, the Veda does not enjoin any karma for the one who knows the nature of the self, jnani. The Veda does enjoin karma for the ajnani. However, in order to help him gain purity of mind, antakarana shuddhi, or any other result, kamya karma, that he may want. He already thinks he is an agent, and the Veda goes along with him, enjoining him to do nitya naimittika karma to get rid of papa and gain antakarana shuddhi, so that he can gain knowledge. Thus, the Veda gives us a clean plan to live a meaningful life, one that is useful for gaining moksha. In the vision of the Veda, what is meaningful is to gain moksha. Thus, imagine a life without any exposure to this Atma Jnana. How did you live before this? I also try to imagine how I was living without any exposure to this knowledge. It is foolish, absolutely foolish, to live a life without any exposure to this teaching. Such a life has no meaning whatsoever because one does not know what one is doing. It is a total surrender to some kind of a general idiotic pursuit. Unless you begin searching, you cannot say that anything is useful. When you look back at all these pursuits, it all looks so silly. We simply get along with life, finding some small joy in the things we love. Those things become Bhagavan for us because our ego fuses there. Simple love is the only thing in samsara that gives it some semblance of meaning. But to live a life without Atma Jnana is absolutely meaningless. Only when you come to know do you wonder how you could do that. Even though a person may be performing Vaitikaka karma, etc., it does not mean anything if the person does not have any exposure to this teaching. Once he has that exposure, karma becomes yoga, and whatever he does becomes meaningful. His life gains a direction because there is something to be accomplished. Very nice. This is what Sudarshan Kriya gives me. The exposure to Sudarshan Kriya makes our life meaningful. And gain a direction. Very nice. It is not established that all karma is preceded by ignorance. An objection. It was said that all karma, whether it is enjoined by the Veda, Vaidika, or it is purely secular, Laukika, is preceded by avidya, ignorance. The point here was to show that because all karma is preceded by ignorance, karma is incapable of removing ignorance. An objection is now raised. Not all karma is preceded by ignorance. The performance of any karma enjoined by the Vedas presupposes knowledge for that karma gained from the Veda. Without the knowledge of a karma, like Agnihotra, through the help of the Veda, there is no way of doing that karma. The Veda gives the knowledge, that is, this is the karma and that is to be done in this particular manner. Doing the ritual presupposes this knowledge of it, and we have no way of knowing it except through the Veda. Therefore, it is looked upon as a pramana, producing knowledge. Thus, a karma enjoined by the Veda is preceded by knowledge. How can you say that karma enjoined by the Veda is preceded by avidya, ignorance? Certain other karmas may be preceded by ignorance, but not those enjoined by the Veda. Even apart from Vaidika karmas, there are other karmas also that are not preceded by avidya, ignorance. If I am running away from a snake, which is not there, that activity is preceded by ignorance. But even simple exercise, for instance, is preceded by some knowledge, such as if I do this exercise, I will reduce the fat on this part of the body. Cooking is also preceded by knowledge. Wherever there is error, we can say that an action is preceded by ignorance. But we cannot say this for actions which are deliberate, which are based on empirical knowledge. Therefore, you cannot say that all karmas are preceded by avidya. Like the one who does karma known to be pratisiddha from the Shastra is an anyani. So too, the one who does nitya karma, Vedanti's answer. Like the one who does karma known to be pratisiddha from the Shastra is an anyani. So too, the one who does nitya karma. So Vedanti's answer, Shankara says, no, it is like the killing of a Brahmana. Further clarifies the point. The Shastra says that killing a Brahmana is a great papa. If a person who's harmless, who's religious, who's doing something like teaching in a local school, and who's absolutely non-interfering in anything, is killed for no reason, that is considered the worst crime, even according to secular law. Both the Shastra and the man-made laws concur on this. There are other things which may be unethical according to the Veda, but are legal. For example, even though the law permits it, the Veda says one should not take an intoxicant. Suram na pibet. Suram na pibet. It is immoral according to the Veda, which means that doing it incurs papa. Nowadays, there is a great public awareness of how much harm alcohol does, not only to the drinker, but also to his family. But besides that, the Veda tells us it attracts papa. Killing a Brahmana is a crime according to the law, like killing any individual. But on the other hand, according to the Shastra, it is a great crime. Even though heinous acts like killing a Brahmana have highly undesirable consequences and are prohibited by the Shastra, people keep doing them. Why? To whom is the Shastra addressing its prohibition? For whom is this type of karma possible? Shastra tells us that it is possible only for the one who has avidya. Because he has avidya, there is the desire to acquire something, raga, or to get rid of something, dvesha. If he does not have these, it is not possible for him to engage in such an activity. He has his own inner pressure and therefore he does it. Because of his false notion, something else becomes more important than what is said by the Shastra. He knows the consequences and he knows the Shastra prohibits it. In spite of his knowledge of the Shastra or knowledge passed on to him by those who know the Shastra, he performs this prohibited karma. What does it mean? Even though one has knowledge of the Veda, the sense of agency, kartatva, does not go away, and therefore desire does not go away. Similarly, suppose the Veda says that those who want to gain a given result should do this prescribed karma. I may gather knowledge, all right, but I do the karma not because of that knowledge, but only because of a desire for the result. And that desire is born of ignorance. There are others who have the same knowledge but do not do that karma, even though one has the knowledge of the means and the end. One may employ the means or may not. Thus, knowledge of means and end does not impel one to act. It is only ignorance. What kind of ignorance? It is the ignorance of Atma that is the cause of action in general. When Shankara says that all action is preceded by ignorance, he is not talking of sadhana, sadhya ajnana, the ignorance of the means and ends. He means the ignorance of the fact that the self is not an agent of any action and is complete, purna, and therefore has nothing to gain by performing any action. Certain actions, the nitya naimittika karmas, are mandated by the Shastra. Who will do them? Just as the prohibited actions are done by those who have ignorance, so too these karmas are done only by the ones who has ignorance of the nature of the self. When the Shastra gives not only its prohibitions but also its injunctions, it is keeping in view only the person who is ignorant of himself. It is not possible to do Nitya karma without knowing the Atma as distinct from the body. Purva Pakshi's objection. Now,
Sumaji, 1 minute. The previous two paragraphs, the para where you started reading about the Nitya Karma, the Agnihotra is preceded by knowledge. that was actually an objection raised by the Purva Pakshi, right?
Hmm.
Can you just go through that one more time? Because it was not mentioned that it's Purva Pakshis, it's an objection.
This one, right?
This one.
Because they say that or not all action is preceded by ignorance.
Yeah. This one, can you just read this one more time? Because it didn't appear as if it was an objection. So it was as if there is a knowledge preceding Agnihotra. Therefore, there is knowledge preceding karma. So how can you say
Yeah.
that? If you don't mind, if
Yeah.
you can just read this once.
Yeah.
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 Thank you.
It was said that all karma, whether it is enjoined by the Veda, Vaidika,
No, I think
or
you should read the heading one so people understand that this is an objection.
okay.
This is the Purva Pakshi stand. Yeah.
It is not established that all karma is preceded by ignorance. An objection to this statement. Shankara had said that all karma is preceded by ignorance. So Purva Pakshi has an objection. And it was said that all karma, whether it is enjoined by the Veda, Vaidika, or purely secular, Laukika, is preceded by avidya, ignorance. The point here was to show that because all karma is preceded by ignorance, karma is incapable of removing ignorance. This is Adi Shankara's thing, that karma is incapable of removing ignorance. An objection is now raised. Now, not all karma is preceded by ignorance. The performance of any karma enjoined by the Veda presupposes knowledge of that karma gained from the Veda. Without the knowledge of a karma like Agnihotra, through the help of the Veda, there is no way of doing that karma. The Veda gives the knowledge that this is the karma and this is to be done and in this particular manner. Doing the ritual presupposes this knowledge of it, and we have no way of knowing it except through the Veda. Therefore, it is looked upon as a pramana, producing the knowledge. Thus, a karma enjoined by the Veda is preceded by knowledge. How can you say that a karma enjoined by the Veda is preceded by avidya, ignorance? Certain other karmas may be preceded by ignorance, but not those enjoined by the Veda. Even apart from Vaidika karmas, there are other karmas also that are not preceded by avidya, ignorance. If I'm running away from a snake, which is not there, that activity is preceded by ignorance. But even simple exercise, for instance, is preceded by some knowledge, such as if I do this exercise, I will reduce the fat on this part of the body. Cooking is also preceded by knowledge. Wherever there is error, we can say that an action is preceded by ignorance. But we cannot say this for actions which are deliberate, which are based on empirical knowledge. Therefore, you cannot say that all karmas are preceded by avidya.
So this is the objection of the Purva Pakshi.
Yeah.
The Purva Pakshi says all the karmas that are enjoined by the Vedas are preceded by knowledge. Knowledge of Agnihotra, knowledge of, even if it's exercise, you have the knowledge that when you do this, this will happen. So how can you say that knowledge, avidya precedes karma, is their objection? So now Shankara gives the answer.
Yeah. Like the one who does karma known to be pratisiddha from the Shastra is an Anyani. So too, the one who does Nitya Karma. Vedanti's answer. Shankara says, no, it is like the killing of a Brahmana, and further clarifies the point. The Shastra says that killing a Brahmana is a great papa. If a person who is harmless, who's religious, who's doing something like teaching in a local school, and who is absolutely non-interfering in anything, is killed for no reason, that is considered the worst crime, even according to secular law. Both the Shastra and the man-made laws concur on this. There are other things which may be unethical according to the Veda, but are legal. For example, even though the law permits it, the Veda says one should not take an intoxicant. Suram na pivet. It is immoral according to the Veda, which means that doing it incurs papa. Nowadays, there is a great public awareness of how much harm alcohol does, not only to the drinker, but also to his family. But besides that, the Veda tells us it attracts papa. Killing a Brahmana is a crime according to the law, like killing any individual. But on the other hand, according to the Shastra, it is a great crime. Even though heinous acts like killing a Brahmana have highly undesirable consequences that are prohibited by the Shastra, people keep doing them. Why? To whom is the Shastra addressing its prohibition? For whom is this type of karma possible? Shastra tells us that it is possible only for the one who has avidya. So heinous crime is done by mind, which has avidya. Only they are capable of doing such heinous crimes. Because he has avidya, there is the desire to acquire something. So the raga comes in. Or to get rid of something, dvesha. If he does not have these, it is not possible for him to engage in such an activity. He has his own inner pressure and therefore he does it. Because of his false notions, something else becomes more important than what is said in the Shastra. He knows the consequences and he knows that the Shastra prohibits it. In spite of his knowledge of the Shastra or knowledge passed on to him by those who know the Shastra, he performs this prohibited karma. What does it mean? Even though one has the knowledge of the Veda, the sense of agency, kartritva, does not go away. Therefore, so this is the avidya. I am the doer. That is the avidya. Even though one has knowledge of the Veda, the sense of agency, kartritva, does not go away, and therefore desires do not go away. Similarly, suppose the Veda says that those who want to gain a given result should do this prescribed karma. I may gather knowledge, all right, but I do the karma not because of the knowledge, but only because of a desire for the result. And that desire is born out of ignorance. There are others who know the same knowledge, but do not do that karma. Even though one has knowledge of the means and the end, one may employ the means or may not. Thus, the knowledge of means and end does not impel one to act. It is only ignorance. What kind of ignorance? That is the kartritva, agency. That is the ignorance. It is ignorance of Atma, that is cause of action in general. When Shankara says that all action is preceded by ignorance, he is not talking of sadhana, sadhya, ajnana, the ignorance of the means and ends. He means the ignorance of the fact that the self is not an agent for any action and is complete, Purna, and therefore has nothing to gain by performing any action. Certain actions, the Nitya Naimittika karmas, are mandated by the Atma, by the Shastra. Who will do them? Just as prohibited actions are done by those who have ignorance, so too these karmas are done only by the one who has ignorance of the nature of the self. Got it? So even certain actions, the Nitya Naimittika karma, are mandated by the Shastra. But who will do them? Only those who have ignorance of the nature of the self. When the Shastra gives not only its prohibitions, but also its injunctions, it is keeping in view only the person who's ignorant of himself. It's clear now, no?
So beautifully he has denounced the Purvapakshi stand. That is what Shankara says. He is not contending the sadhana sadhya ajnana. It is not the knowledge of the means and the ends, which is what Purvapakshi is holding on to. He says, how can you say there is avidya preceding karma? Because there is knowledge actually. Without knowledge of Agnihotra, how to do, what to do, all that is knowledge. That is what the Purvapakshi stand is. So he says, how can you say avidya precedes action? So he has only a superfluous knowledge of this whole thing, of the Veda, the Shastra, and he says there is of course knowledge preceding action. But Shankara goes one step beyond. Although I didn't quite understand how that killing of a Brahmana, I couldn't understand that part. If any one of you has understood, you can mention, you can please share. But what Shankara says, the avidya that he's talking of is not the avidya, is not the, is of the nature of the self.
Right.
The
Yes.
very fact that we act is because you want to gain something. And why do you want to gain something? Because you think it's the fundamental error basically. Because you think you're not full, because you think you are incomplete, you want to do some action in order to complete and feel complete. So that is the avidya. Because you do not know that the self is Purna, you don't know that the self is completely secure. You go about doing actions in order to gain the security. That is the fundamental avidya. That is the avidya he's talking of, not the knowledge of the ritual. He's not contending that. That is why he says not the sadhana sadhya avidya or sadhana sadhya jnana. It is jnana of who you truly are, the Atma Vishaya.
Hello, that Brahmanas, killing of Brahmana. See, that is, you need not know Veda for that. Even the ordinary law it abides by that. So he may not be knowing the knowledge, but he can, he follows the law of the rule of the government and all that. That criminal part is there also in general uh, 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 law which holds the country. So he knows that knowledge, but it doesn't mean that he knows the knowledge of Atma. That is what he wants to say. I think it's clear, no?
Hari Om Brahmaraji, can we take the example of Duryodhana here? He knew that he is doing adharma, but because of his disposition, he was impelled to do the dharma. In the same way, these people who do the heinous crime, they know what they are doing against the law or against the Shastra. But because of their disposition, they are impelled to do those actions.
Yes, Duryodhana also tells Krishna, I know I should not do all these. These are all uh, heinous crimes, but I'm not able to stop it because he
No,
has
I
that.
think, sorry.
Go ahead.
I think here the question was about the knowledge of the self and knowledge of the action and its result. This was discussed.
Correct. So the killing of the Brahmana, like Sureshji pointed out, you don't need the knowledge. The Shastra, of course, says it's a heinous crime and the result is great papa. But even without knowledge from the Shastra, one person, an individual understands that this incurs papa. This is something that is not ethical. So here the contention is not about the knowledge of the action and whether the action gives in papa or punya. Shankara goes one step beyond this. He says we are not contending it is the knowledge of action, but it is why do we do this knowledge? The very fact that one person acts is because of the fundamental ignorance that Atma is akarta. Because you do not know that Atma is akarta, you go about acting in order to accomplish something. So that is the fundamental avidya that precedes action, is what Shankara is talking about. It is not the question of knowledge of the action of, whether it is not about the knowledge of the action per se. What Purva Pakshi is holding on to is he's going very superficial, whereas Shankara goes one step beyond. And he's talking of the fundamental reason why a person even acts. Because he does not know that Atma is akarta. There is no action required of Atma. There is no action that Atma does.
Here, the definition of knowledge only they don't know. Here, the definition of knowledge is to know who you are. Not the superficial knowledge of the substance, arithmetic, this one, physics, that what we read. You see, here the knowledge means knowing of whom you are, and you are Atma. So they do not know clearly what is the knowledge, what they are talking about. Therefore, that is ignorance again.
Very beautiful. Dhanyavada.
Shall I continue?
Yeah.
It is not possible to do Nitya Karma It is impossible, he argues, for a person to do Nitya Naimittika Karma like Agnihotra, etc., without knowing that the self is distinct from the body. Why? When you perform an enjoined karma, it produces punya. Whereas doing a
Sorry,
prohibited...
Simaji, 1 minute. I think you were not heard for some time. Can you
Okay.
please start with the title one more time so we understand that this is the objection?
Okay. It is not possible to do Nitya Karma without knowing the Atma as distinct from the body. The Purva Pakshi's objection. Now, this person raises another argument based on his understanding of ignorance, avidya. It is impossible, he argues, for a person to do Nitya Naimittika Karma like Agnihotra, etc., without knowing that the self is distinct from the body. Why? When you perform an enjoined karma, it produces punya, whereas doing a prohibited karma produces papa. Are they visible? No. They are credited into the account of the individual, jiva, who does the karma, to be encashed by him later. Therefore, the one who does such karma must necessarily have the knowledge that there is an Atma who survives the body, who is going to reap the unseen results of the actions done here. Unless he has that knowledge, how can he perform such a karma? You cannot perform the Shraddha karma for the departed soul. For example, unless you accept that a soul that has departed, nor can you perform karma for entry to heaven, because you know that this body is left behind here. Who is going to enter heaven? If you take the body as the Atma, you cannot do karma whose result is going to accrue to the one who survives the death of the body. Nobody performs karma enjoined by the Veda without knowing that there is an Atma other than the body. That means he has no ignorance, avidya, but rather he has knowledge, vidya. How can you say that all karma is produced by ignorance? This is an argument raised by the opponent.
Now, can we say here that he has the information, may not be the knowledge as such, right? Because what Purva Pakshi is saying is right in a way, if you see. unless you, you know, you would do those rituals, knowing that Atma is separate from what he's saying is right, but it's just an information we have. We may not have the real knowledge as such, right? This is what is meant.
No, he has knowledge of the self. Atma is there, one Atma, one soul. But he
Yeah,
doesn't have knowledge of Advaita. You understand it? He knows that is the self. So he thinks that self is different. He knows that all. But he doesn't know that self is Advaita Bhavana is not there.
Right.
Yeah.
But are
Merely,
we taking this knowledge as just a superficial knowledge, like a informative knowledge, or realization is knowledge?
I feel these arguments are discussed here for us to know that the Atma or the soul is akrit, is not doer, akritvatva. Akritva. That's what I think. All these arguments are to make us understand that Atma is not the doer. There is no doer. It
He
is a habit.
really knows how to confuse us.
I think if we read further, we will understand when Shankara is refuting the objection, we'll understand better.
Yeah. Merely knowing the Atma as distinct from body is not total knowledge, Vedanti's answer. This argument is not valid because the knowledge of Atma spoken of here is not complete. The knowledge that the self is distinct from the body comes under religion, and it is common to all religions, including Islam, Christianity, and Buddhism. In fact, it is not so much a knowledge as it is a belief. Correct. Correct. There's no knowledge, it's a belief. For Vedanta, this is only a part of the method of teaching, prakriya. It is not what it wants to convey, tatparya. I am not teaching Vedanta to tell you that you will be reborn. You were never born. Where is the possibility of being reborn? That you think you were born is your problem. So, in the vision of Vedanta, we are not committed to rebirth, but it has to be part of the prakriya when we are considering the model of karma. We have varieties of prakriyas. The model of karma, along with the concept of rebirth, is one of them. But we have no commitment there at all. How do you know that you survive death? You can only say that the Shastra says so. You cannot know it for certain until after death. And no one can return from death to verify this fact for us. Everyone is born totally ignorant of what preceded the birth of that body. It will be always the same and therefore will remain always a mystery. It can be called a belief. We consider it a knowledge. We consider it knowledge because it is revealed by the Shastra, but it is knowledge that will always, but it is knowledge that will always be mediate. Nitya Paroksha Jnana. That knowledge, however, is not what we call knowledge of Atma. Even the person who knows that the self survives death thinks, I perform this action. And by that he means, I am not isolated individual who is the agent, karta, and the enjoyer, bhokta
No,
of the
I
results.
am an isolated individual.
Correct. Yeah, I am an isolated individual who is the agent, karta, and enjoyer, bhokta of the result of action. As long as he looks at himself purely as a karta and bhokta, as long as he looks at himself purely as a karta and bhokta, his knowledge is not complete. That knowledge and the knowledge of means and ends, sadhana sadhya, is not real knowledge. It is ignorance because it is opposed to the truth about the nature of the self, that the self is neither an agent nor an enjoyer. This is why we say that karma is preceded by avidya. Correct, no? Because this knowledge is considered ignorant because it is opposed to the truth about the nature of the self. Because here we are talking about bhokta and karta, but nature of the self is satchitananda. So it is opposing that. So it is avidya. So that is why we say that karma is preceded by avidya. Any karma is due to ignorance alone, Vedanti. Shankara negates the Purva Pakshi and defines ignorance here, and in the process defines karma as that which is in the form of activity. Chalantatmaka. Is that how you say it? Chalantatmaka? Chalanatmaka. Chalanatmaka. So, karma is in the form of activity. Chalanatmaka. He says that any action which is chalanatmaka is anatma kartrika. Anatma kartrika. That is, it is na atma kartrika, not done by atma. That is, it is done by one who has this notion that I am doing this action. Whatever be the karma, whether it is enjoined by the Veda, Shrauta karma, or enjoined by Smriti, Smarta karma. Shrauta karma and Smarta karma. It is done as an atonement, Prayaschitta karma, or it is a prohibition, Pratisitta karma, or it is in the form of a mandate, Nitya Naimittika karma, or it is in the form of an option to fulfill a desire, Kamya karma, or it is purely a secular action, Laukika karma, or is done physically, Kayika karma, orally, Vachika karma, or purely mentally, Manasa karma. It implies some kind of motion. There is movement, change, even in breathing, opening and closing of the eyelids, and hearing, etc. So, Shankara defines karma as a form of activity, chalanatmaka, movement, be it mentally, words, or by action, or as enjoined in the karma, that is in the Vedas, that is Nitya Naimitika karma, to fulfill your desires, kamya karma, be it for the world, purely laukika, or all this from the Vedas, Shrota karma or Smriti Smarta karma or Prayaschitta karma or prohibited action.
He brings in the whole gamut of karma here. He's
Yeah,
wrapping up all of the karma, including breathing, including pranayam, including Sudarshan Kriya. I mean, he's not mentioned Sudarshan Kriya, but it implies.
yeah.
This is what
So that's
Gurudev was saying when he
an
says,
action.
yeah, no amount of what you're doing will get you moksha. This is what Gurudev mentioned.
ಮೊದಲಿಂದಾನೇ ಬಂದಿದ್ದು
Sudeshti,
ಮನೆ
mute yourself.
ಮೊದಲು ನಮ್ಮ ಫಾದರ್ ಓದ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು ಅದು ಮಹಾತ್ಮೆನೊಳಗಿದೆ ಅದು ನಾವು ಶ್ರಾವಣನೊಳಗೆ ಮುಗಿಸ್ಬೇಕು.
Thanks. Okay. So, Brahmaraji, please continue.
No. What I was saying was, Shankara is wrapping up all kinds of karma here, including Shastra Vihita karma, Nitya Naimitika karma, Pratisiddha karma, all of that, including Laukika karma, including the karma we do, which is Manasa, Vachika, and Kayika, Kamya karma. All karmas he's wrapping up here, putting all of that in one bundle. And he says, this is Chalanatmika. It has motion. There is movement from one object to the other, or one thought to the other. And he says, who is doing this? Is it the Atma or Anatma? I think in the next paragraph. So what I'm saying here, what Gurudev had mentioned, no amount of what you're doing, he mentioned that no amount of what you're doing will give you liberation. And this is what he must have meant. He must have meant. Because see, even Sudarshan Kriya, it is a Kriya, it is an action. You're doing pranayam. So, of course, it has, we're not contending the benefits of Sudarshan Kriya here. But that it is an action is non-debatable. You can't argue that it is not an action. Similarly, meditation is an action. It's a manasika karma. So therefore, all of that will not get you liberation. As in, just doing that. I'm not saying they don't have their benefits. Please don't get me wrong. They have their role to play. Nitya karma has its role to play in getting rid of our ragadveshas. That is not what we're contending. What Shankara is saying here is action as action. Because that is the Purva Pakshi stand. He stays karma, through karma you can attain moksha. And he says, of course, the last few paragraphs was about the knowledge preceding the karma. Because Shankara says there is avidya preceding karma. All karma is because of avidya. Purva Pakshi brings in the concept saying, no, how can you say that? There is, of course, knowledge of Agnihotra, knowledge of this before you do. But Shankara's gotten even finer than that. And he says, it is the avidya that you are Atma, that is what is impelling you to act. And that is the fundamental avidya. And now he is wrapping up all the karmas. And he says, all this is chalanatmika. It is subject to movement, subject to change. And then, you can carry further.
Any mental activity is also motion. There is movement from one thought to another. One object is there, then that is gone, and another appears. On the part of the doer also, there is constant change. Now he is a seer. Now he is a hearer. Now a thinker. There is no karma without change and therefore motion. Now, a karma which is subject to change is performed by whom? By anatma alone. Is the body atma or anatma? Even according to this person who is arguing, the body is anatma. Even though it is the body which is doing the action. And this fellow knows very well that the self is other than the body. What does he say? I do. Aham karomi. He does not say, my hand is offering the oblation or my body is bathed, but rather, I offer the oblation, I bathed. He does not say that his tongue repeats the mantra, nor does he expect the tongue to get some results. Who is the karma phala bhokta? It is the person who thinks that he is going to get the results. Who am I? Even though the action is done by the body does not think that it is the agent or that it is going to be the one who experiences the results. Whereas the person says, I do the action, I will enjoy the results. There is the ignorance, avidya. Even though I have a belief that the self is other than the body, I can never avoid identification with the physical body, etc. Because this is a belief only about the situation after death. The appreciation of the Atma should be total, otherwise it can only be a simple belief. The notion that I am the body or that I am the agent, karta, will be there because the subtle body, sukshma sharira, is identified with the body. Naturally, whatever happens there happens only to me. The notion of agency will not go away simply by a belief that the self is other than the body. The self is not subject to any movement, achala, and therefore, where is the agency, kartritva? Not even the Shastra can address this Atma. The Shastra can address only an agent of action. Keeping that in view, it says, do this. Can it address Sat Chit Ananda Atma? No. It says that you are Sat Chit Ananda Atma who does not perform any action and is free from samsara. And when it enjoins an action, it is only from the standpoint of the mind, which is superimposed upon Atma and has Atma superimposed upon it. Because of this mutual superimposition, there is the sense of agency, kartutva buddhi. This is a false notion, and therefore every action is preceded by ignorance. Oh my goodness. So the superimposition is ignorance. Very simple. It's very beautiful, no? Yes. Anirvachana, Gurudev always says that Anirvachana, Atma cannot be described. How can you address Sat Chit Ananda Atma? Therefore, Shastra says do this and do that. So we get confused and we superimpose each other The body as Atma and Atma as body. I mean, that is ignorance.
The Shastra is addressing the Ajnani. Shastra is addressing the ignorant person.
Yeah.
So there is a distinction, and like how Renal pointed out, the distinction between Atma and the body is only like a belief, it is only like a concept, it has not become total knowledge. So you're still a distinction, but you've not completely understood that you are Atma. Once you understand you are Atma, there is no question of action. There is no kartritva, there is no bhoktritva. So who are you talking about? And in fact, in one paragraph, he talks about rebirth. That rebirth is only for an ajnani. He says you were born in the first place. So that is only used as a means of not that prakriya. I think we need to go through this one more reading. We will, because this is a very fine distinction, and how he's actually denouncing the Purva Pakshi's concept that there is knowledge preceding action. Yeah.
So I'll stop here for today. Anyone wants to share?
Hari Om, just a point that is it that the jnanis, they whatever action as a sharira with their sharira they do, it is as good as those involuntary actions like Pashyan, Shrunvan, Jigran. Is it like that? That they do all activities, but as if it is done involuntarily. Yeah, they are doing it indifferently. That is what it said, no? Yeah, they're indifferent. Yeah, they're indifferent. It's just happening. The guna guneshu vartante. The sense objects, the sense organs are moving around. They're doing their own job. He is not affected. The jnani, he is not. Although he sees, he doesn't see. Pashyan, Shrinvan, Sprishan, Jigran. All that is just happening.
Inaction. Inaction in action.
Because for us, I think it is the superimposition of mind over the Atma is there. They are aware of the distinction between Atma and the mind, and they have full control over their mind. And we, our mind is the doer and the enjoyer or the sufferer. And that's why we feel that it is me. When we say it is me, it is the mind is talking over here, not the Atma.
And Gurudev has also said in one knowledge sheet, don't show your lordship, everybody will not understand. So these jnanis will not display their I don't know how to put it, display their understanding of that they are, they have the knowledge of the Atma. They won't display that because not everybody will understand.
Yeah, because Krishna himself has said that. He says, don't say that all this karma is useless to a person who's doing all this.
Don't.
Because he cannot understand.
Yeah,
Don't
because he cannot understand.
Says don't disturb it.
Yeah, don't disturb him. In fact, that's inconsistent. Shloka in chapter 3, I suppose. So he says, don't disturb their minds. Let them do what they're doing. There will come a time when they will understand. But you continue doing what you're doing with this understanding. So if you can just note down the page number for us to start off.
445.
I think from the 15th chapter downwards we'll read.
Okay.
Tomorrow. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Gurudev.
निरुपमनित्यनिरंशकेऽप्यखण्डे मयि चिति सर्वविकल्पनादिशून्ये घटयति जगदीश जीवभेदम् त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया श्रुतिशतनिगमान्तशोधकानपि अहधनादिनिदर्शनेन सद्यः कलुषयति चतुष्पदाद्यभिन्ना न घटितघटना पडीयसी माया सुखचिदखण्डविबोधमद्वितीयम् वियदनलादिविनिर्मित्ते नियोज्य भ्रमयति भवसागरे नितान्तम् त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया अपगतगुणवर्णजातिभेदे सुखचितिविप्रविडार्यहं कृतिं च स्फुटयति सुतदारकेहमोहम् त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया विधिहरिहरविभेदमप्यखण्डे बत विरचय्य बुधानपि प्रकामम् भ्रमयति हरिहरविभेदभावान् घटितघटना पटीयसी माया त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया